Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanessa if you are new here. Now, in this week's video, we're going to be talking about the touchy subject of politics and religion. Now, this year that I'm filming this video is 2020, which makes it an election year. So people are going to be voted in and there's going to be propositions voted on. Millions of people are going to be casting their ballots in November. By the way, just a quick disclaimer, if you hear any background noise, it's because there is a little kitten running around this room that wants to be in the video so much, but I keep pushing him away. So if he comes into view, his name is Oscar, say hello to him in the comments. But anyways, let's get back into the video. Now, since we're in election year, politics and religion are brought up a lot. And this has people who believe that they believe the same things arguing about things that they never knew that they were going to argue. Now, there's Catholics who say you have to vote Republican, and there's Catholics that say you're supposed to vote Democrat, and this makes us very divided. Due to this division, a lot of people like to claim that politics and religion should remain separate, that your religious beliefs shouldn't affect the way you vote, and that there is no one side that a Catholic should vote for, whether it should be Republican or Democrat. So we're going to be looking at what the church teaches on the topic of politics. So to answer the question, should religion play a role in how we vote? Yes, it should. Now, this video is not saying you should vote this side or this side. This video is just providing you with information about what the church teaches, so do with this information as you will. So how do we know that religion should play a role in how we vote? Well, the Catholic Church, or the Catechism of the Catholic Church, actually says so. So bear with me because we're going to be going all around the Catechism to see what the church teaches. There's going to be a lot read from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, so brace yourselves and get your catechism out. So the Catechism of the Catholic Church bases the teaching from the fourth commandment that we are supposed to honor our authority. So the Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 2234 says, God's fourth commandment also enjoins us to honor all who, for our good, have received authority in society from God. It clarifies the duties of those who exercise authority, as well as those who benefit from it. So from this, we understand that the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches us to honor our authority. But the Catechism of the Catholic Church then goes on to explain what the authority is meant to accomplish. It says, those who exercise authority should do so as a service. Whoever would be great among you must be your servant. The exercise of authority is measured morally in terms of its divine origin, its reasonable nature, and its specific object. No one can command or establish what is contrary to the dignity of persons and the natural law. The exercise of authority is meant to give outward expression to a just hierarchy of values in order to facilitate the exercise of freedom and responsibility by all. Those in authority should practice distributive justice wisely, taking account of the needs and contribution of each, with a view to harmony and peace. They should take care that the regulations and measures they adopt are not a source of temptation by setting personal interest against that of the community. Political authorities are obliged to respect the fundamental rights of the person. They will dispense justice humanely by respecting the rights of everyone, especially of families and the disadvantaged. The political rights attached to citizenship can and should be granted according to the requirements of the common good. They cannot be suspended by public authorities without legitimate and proportionate reasons. Political rights are meant to be exercised for the common good of the nation and the human community. So I know that was a lot, so there are two things that I would like to highlight here, which are paragraphs 2235 and 2237. They say, no one can command or establish what is contrary to the dignity of persons and the natural law. Political authorities are obliged to respect the fundamental rights of the human person. They will dispense justice humanely by respecting the rights of everyone, especially of families and the disadvantaged. Political rights are meant to be exercised for the common good of the nation and the human community. Notice in these two paragraphs, we see that authorities cannot establish anything that goes contrary to natural law or dignity of human persons or goes against the common good. These paragraphs also explain that political authorities must respect the human fundamental right. As we continue reading, we learn more about the common good. It says, those subject to authority should regard those in authority as representatives of God, who has made them stewards of his gifts. Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution. Live as free men, yet without using your freedom as a pretext for evil, but live as servants of God. Their loyal collaboration includes the right, and at times the duty, to voice their just criticisms of that which seems harmful to the dignity of persons and to the common good of the community. It is the duty of citizens to contribute along with the civil authorities to the good of society in a spirit of truth, justice, solidarity, and freedom. The love and service of one's country follow the duty of gratitude and belong to the order of charity. Submission to legitimate authorities and service of the common good requires citizens to fulfill their roles in the life of the political community. Submission to authority and co-responsibility for the common good make it morally obligatory to pay taxes, to exercise the right to vote, and to defend one's country. Pay to all of them their dues, taxes to whom taxes are due, revenue to whom revenue is due, respect to whom respect is due, honor to whom honor is due. Christians reside in their own nations, but as resident aliens. They participate in all things as citizens and endure all things as foreigners. They obey the established laws, and their way of life surpasses the laws. So noble is the position to which God has assigned them that they are not allowed to desert it. The apostle exhorts us to offer prayers and thanksgiving for kings and all who exercise authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceful life, godly and respectful in every way. So from these paragraphs, we see our duties as citizens to honor our authority, but also understand that we have co-responsibility in the way we vote, and the way we act, and what we do as citizens. As we continue reading forward, we learn of what is expected of an institution and the importance of an institution. Every institution is inspired, as least implicitly, by a vision of man and his destiny, from which it derives the point of reference for its judgment, its hierarchy of values, its line of conduct. Most societies have formed their institutions in the recognition of a certain preeminence of man over things. Only the divinely revealed religion has clearly recognized man's origin and destiny in God, the Creator and Redeemer. The Church invites political authorities to measure their judgments and decisions against this inspired truth about God and man. Societies not recognizing this vision or rejecting it in the name of their independence from God are brought to seek their criteria and goal in themselves, or to borrow them from some ideology, since they do not admit that one can defend an objective criterion of good and evil. They arrogate to themselves an explicit or implicit totalitarian power over man and his destiny, as history shows. The Church, because of her commission and competence, is not to be confused in any way with the political community. She is both the sign and the safeguard of the transcendent character of the human person. The Church respects and encourages the political freedom and responsibility of the citizen. It is part of the Church's mission to pass moral judgments, even in matters related to politics, whenever the fundamental rights of man or the salvation of souls require it. This means the only means she may use are those which in accord with the gospel and the welfare of all men, according to the diversity of times and circumstances. So from these paragraphs, we see the importance that the Church plays in how we vote and upholding the dignity of persons. When we vote, we must keep what the Church teaches in mind. So in a previous video, I've talked about mortal and venial sins, and in that video, I mentioned about the importance in how you vote, and how if you vote in some certain way or you defend a person in some certain way, that you become responsible for a mortal sin being committed. So I'm going to read this portion of the Catechism of the Catholic Church because it explains it way better than I could ever do so. Sin is a personal act. Moreover, we have the responsibility for the sins committed by others when we cooperate in them, by participating directly and voluntarily in them, by ordering, advising, praising, or approving them, by not disclosing or not hindering them when we have the obligation to do so, by protecting evildoers. Thus, sin makes men accomplices of one another and causes concupiscence. Concupiscence? I just Googled how to say it and I can't remember. Concupiscence? You can read it. Violence and injustice to reign among them. Sins give rise to social situations and institutions that are contrary to the divine goodness. Structures of sin are the expression and effect of personal sins. They lead their victims to do evil in their turn. In an analogous sense, they constitute a social sin. This teaching right here from the Catechism of the Catholic Church is super important for us to take note of, because it says that when we protect an evildoer or we allow for a sin to be committed, then we become accomplices in that sin. So we have to keep this in mind when we vote on policies or we vote for certain individuals who back up a sin as saying that it's a right or the person should be able to do it. We have to keep this in mind when we vote for these people, because even though we may not be doing the act, if we condone the act in any way, we become responsible for that sin. This takes us back to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 2235, which says, "No one can command or establish what is contrary to the dignity of persons and the natural law." Earlier, I noted the common good, and we talked about it briefly, but I'm going to go more into depth of what the Catechism of the Catholic Church says about the common good. It says, "By common good, it is understood the sum total of social conditions which allow people, either as groups or as individuals, to reach their fulfillment more fully and more easily. The common good concerns the life of all. It calls for prudence from each and even more from those who exercise the office of authority. It consists of three essential elements. First, the common good presupposes respect for the person as such. In the name of the common good, public authorities are bound to respect the fundamental and inalienable rights of the human person. Society should permit each of its members to fulfill his vocation. In particular, the common good resides in the conditions for the exercise of the natural freedoms indispensable for the development of the human vocation, such as the right to act according to a sound norm of conscience and to safeguard privacy and rightful freedom, also in the matters of religion. Second, the common good requires the social well-being and development of the group itself. Development is the epitome of all social duties. Certainly, it is proper function of authority to arbitrate in the name of the common good between various particular interests, but it should make accessible to each what is needed to lead a truly human life: food, clothing, health, work, education, and culture, suitable information, the right to establish a family, and so on. Finally, the common good requires peace, that is, the stability and security of a just order. It presupposes that authority should ensure by morally acceptable means the security of society and its members. It is the basis of the right to legitimate personal and collective defense. Each human community possesses a common good which permits it to be recognized as such. It is in the political community that a most complete realization is found. It is the role of the state to defend and promote the common good of civil society, its citizens, and intermediate bodies." So from this, we can see that the Catholic Church has a lot to say about politics and the way we vote and the way that we're supposed to uphold authority and how we are supposed to, or our duties as citizens. So what did the early Christians believe? Did they believe that voting and politics go hand in hand? Yes, they did, and we can see this in two quotes by two early Christians. The first Christian that we're going to read from is St. Irenaeus of Lyon. He said, "The preaching of the church is everywhere consistent and continues an even course, and receives testimony from the prophets, the apostles, and all the disciples, as I have proved, through those in the beginning, the middle, and the end, and through the entire dispensation of God. And that well-grounded system which tends to man's salvation, namely our faith, which has been received from the church, we do preserve, and which always, by the Spirit of God, renewing its youth, as if it were some precious deposit in an excellent vessel, causes the vessel itself containing it to renew its youth also." And we also see St. Vincent of Lerins talk about this as well. He says, "In the Catholic Church itself, all possible care must be taken that we uphold that faith which has been believed everywhere, always by all. For that is truly, and in the strictest sense, Catholic, which, as the name itself and the reason of the thing declare, comprehends all universally." So, from this, we can see that the church has a lot to say about politics, how we vote, and how our faith plays a role in how we're supposed to vote, and how we must uphold the right to life, the fundamental rights that God has given us. So, keep this in mind when you go to the polling booths or if you're mailing in your ballots. Keep this in mind when you vote in November because this is very, very important. Keep this in mind when we talk about abortion or we talk about voting for a candidate who is in favor of abortion. Keep in mind what we learned about mortal sins and how we play a role when we don't like go against the mortal sin, even if we're not ourselves committing it. Keep this in mind when you go vote in November. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you happen to like this video, please give it a like, and if you didn't like it, give it a dislike. By doing that, you let me know if you guys like this type of content or if you hate this type of content. So let me know. Also, create a discussion in the comment bar down below. I want to hear your opinions on this. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys all in my next video. Bye-bye.